And she's really oppressive early game, and she crushes through people, and she has like uncontested dive potential, which is like, it feels unfair to play against a lot of the time. But then when she's like that, she gets nerfed a little bit, and then suddenly her kit doesn't function very well because she doesn't function well later in the game. She's basically just an early game jungler that can like dive people better than like other junglers can. She can't fight against the sustained damage junglers like Xin Zhao, like Warwick, like fucking what was the sustained damage junglers good right now? She loses duels to like Kha'Zix unless she gets like the jump on him really early. That kind of thing. She just loses to a lot of the other damage junglers in straight up fights, but you normally just rush Mobies on her and try to push over lanes, and you can take fights that most people can't, or dive in like situations where most people can't. So like these are very small changes. I don't think these are going to push her back into the meta terribly. I feel like they would have to change something with her kit. I feel like spiderlings aren't a meaningful part of her kit anymore ever since they changed them way back when. I feel like they could actually just remove them and put power elsewhere to give her more of an identity, or they could put more power back into spiderlings. I don't know which one they would want to do, but spiderlings don't feel like part of her kit anymore, so I would love to see that targeted in the future as like a way to like bring out some of the identity of the champion, because they literally feel worthless now. They die in 2 hits to any jungle camp. If you try to like micro on jungle camps too much, then you lose the fucking patience bar and it just stops. So a lot of times you have to tank it so you get the spiderling damage, because otherwise she clears really slow. It just feels really bad. Like I have a lot to say about Elise because I love playing Elise, but I think she needs fundamental changes, but these could make her see a little bit of play, but I don't think she'll be like a staple in the current meta. But she's really good in early game sieges because she has pick potential with Cocoon, and she can threaten people from relatively safe range. So as far as like damage junglers go, she has like a play pattern that doesn't require her to go all in necessarily. But if she falls behind early and a couple things don't work, she can easily just be literally dead weight. The Cocoon change is really big for that. 2 seconds off first rank, this is really big actually, because she maxes that last. But enough of her. This is interesting. It'll make him a little bit tankier in fights. It'll also make him relatively tankier in the jungle, because Hecarim in his first couple of clears is actually relatively unhealthy. So I don't think this fixes Hecarim in like competitive play or anything. He's always been a kind of like solo queue staple, where if he gets ahead, he kind of just crushes through games because he becomes too tanky while also being able to one-shot people. So this will just make him more reliable in solo queue, a little bit less feast or famine at the very start of the game, and then if he builds tankier, like this can actually be really meaningful later in the game. So tank Hecarim will benefit more from this as the game progresses. Could be okay. He's always been a solo queue staple. This is interesting. I've definitely just been stuck on like sides of walls before, and then you have to walk around, you waste time. That doesn't feel good. They're giving some of the W range back, which still gives vision. So this is still 1000 range. I get vision of like something for really easy, so that's super good actually. It's not, I also don't think this will bring Ivern necessarily back, but this is interesting because they're putting power back into something that they specifically said they didn't want to put power into. If they wanted to put power into something, I could see putting more power into Daisy, making her a little bit more durable, or giving her a little bit more damage, a little bit more sustained damage. So if she gets to stay in a fight for longer, like maybe she does more damage or something like that, to give him a little bit easier time doing like neutral objectives and a little bit more threat post 6 and like longer skirmishes. So I think they should work with this. This goes back on like something they said they wanted to change about him, so I don't know how I feel about this. But this is nice. I've had this issue before. What's up, cat lover? Karth is small Q damage buff. This is 10 damage. This is actually 20 damage because when he hits a single target, it doubles the damage. So this is, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it actually is probably a pretty decent thing because he wave clears early with Q. All of his damage comes from Q early for the most part, and that's what he's gonna max first. That means every time he hits you, 20 damage. Like, it's gonna be pretty notable. Any burst AoE champions get buffed by Locket. So are you saying like they did the Locket thing where they changed it to like the percentage damage reduction? Where's that? Is that up here? I'm gonna look at that for a second. Bonus health. Oh wait. Wait, what? All right, so they didn't do the other thing. They didn't do the change where they made it like on the PBE. It had been making a bubble, and the bubble was reducing damage taken. This is just a lot fucking worse. This is a lot worse. Wow, that's uninspiring. Let's get back. That's uninspiring. That's pretty bad. The damage reduction seemed insane. Right, so I was thinking like the damage reduction would be really good for like supports instead of tanks, because then you can get flat damage reduction and we wouldn't have to build as much health to scale it up, that kind of thing. But that's just a lot. That's just a huge nerf for it. Kayn, increased amount of points gained from interacting with enemy champions pre 10 minutes, decreased from interacting post 15 minutes. You normally get your thing around like 10 to 15 anyway, so I don't think this isn't meaningful. Like they didn't even need to put this in. You can cover this up. This isn't real. This is dead. Unless you're like literally like 0-15, like you're gonna get your thing by like 10 to 15 minutes. Other abilities can be queued up while casting Q. That's really interesting too, because that means that you could queue forward for a little mini gap closer and already have your W queued up to cast when the movement goes through. So that could give him a little bit more chasing potential and threat. This could be potent. Or you could queue for the tiny bit of range and queue up casting your R, and as long as you were in range to R, then as soon as the Q finishes the cast, then you're gonna get it. So it's a tiny bit more. Played Kayn, ganked bot, got a double kill. So it's a significant increase, because before you need like probably like 4 kills early to get it in like a meaningful amount of time, like 4 to 5, or like to slice at people like quite a bit. Like you fight their jungler a few times and you get toward that one. Let's look at this Twitter post. Almost got his form at 3 minutes. All right, let's look at this quick clip. Slices up bot lane. Wow, it's like 95% full. That's actually fucking insane. That's actually insane. All right, that's really interesting. That's a significant increase. Before that, probably would have given you like a third to half tops. Like, and given like 90. That's actually insane. But this is interesting because he can queue up W's and R's out of this too. So these are actually pretty good changes for Kayn. Like these are just strict buffs. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And he's a fucking solo queue staple. He's in like every game, basically, feels like. Leona defaults to attack damage as her adaptive stat. Huh. So this is actually a buff because most things that give damage would be giving her AP, and her AP ratios are uninspiring, but her attack damage, she gets lots of auto attacks in. She would reset, get 2 autos in real quick. So this probably gives her a little bit more damage early. That's probably a little bit of damage. Lux ultimate cooldown reduction been increased, 30, 40, 50. Cooldown refund is granted if one or when die within 1.75 seconds. They don't have to die to it anymore. They can die to enemies. Die to allies. Okay. So that's interesting. Because I don't know how interesting this actually is. This basically just means if you get a pick and then you team fight after or you pressure something, you'll have your ult back up. But if you're in a team fight, this doesn't do anything. This never does anything in a team fight. But if you get a pick before the team fight, then this can help. Also, if you get like a tag on somebody for like a little bit of assist damage, then you can potentially get it back. So it encourages you to at least use it to try to like get those like tags on people for assists or kills and to look for those picks more. I don't think this fixes Lux because she has mana problems and her cooldowns are too long, so she can't compete with the wave clear of meta mages, which is why she isn't picked. When wave clear isn't as valuable, then she is a fine pick because she one-shots any squishy that gets caught later. And her shield is broken like good, but this does not fix her problem. 11 seconds with the reset. Yeah, like her cooldowns and her mana costs are just too long early. Oh, that's what ulti had. Okay. Gain some attack damage. Great for trading in top. This is interesting because I wonder if people would build something like Gallios are building more AP right now, and I could see Malphite going something like Leandries with this, because E is an attack speed slow, and attack speed slows count as disability for Leandries for the bonus damage. So Malphite could do a really meaningful amount of damage if he got some CDR plus a Leandries, especially with this increased AP ratio and the reduced cooldown on his ultimate. This also just helps his trading. These are just pretty okay buffs for Malphite. I assume most Malphites take relatively aggressive runes. They take Comet, they might take Scorch, sometimes they get a little bit of AP from those kinds of things, so this is just a little bit more damage early. And E is normally what you max and you spam in lane unless they're a ranged champion, so this helps his wave clear. This could definitely open up more AP or slightly more hybrid builds for like a first, second item, because Abyssal Mask is really good on him too. So like you could go something like Abyssal Mask and like 1 AP item, and then just with those 2 items, like 1 hybrid item and then 1 tank item that increases your magic damage a little bit, you could probably one-shot somebody still. So, and that's without a big investment. So they keep buffing Nocturne. Nocturne sees competitive play whenever he gets buffed a little bit, so I don't really know what to make of this, because Nocturne has seen competitive play the past couple of patches. Even after they buffed him once, he just keeps seeing competitive play. Nocturne is a competitive staple because his ult is so damn valuable, and he's so damn reliable at punishing people when he has his ultimate up. So, don't necessarily agree that Nocturne needs more. I don't think Nocturne's in that bad of a spot. I don't think he got hit by, like, he doesn't build Duskblade every game anyway, but this is fine. Olaf is really potent right now in competitive play, starting to become more common in solo queue. Him with Predator at level 6 right now, for example, I played like a normal and I was chasing an Ahri down the river, and just with Predator plus like his R, you can literally just chase Ahri through 3 of her Rs and then just run her down and kill her anyway. So like this 20% movement speed instead of 50 will make like that's a big impact. Because separate sources, I believe, are multiplicative. Like they have DR, they have diminishing returns, but they're multiplicative. And what's up, Kyle? I don't know if I said that or not. If I said what's up or not, but I didn't remember, so I'm saying it again if I did. So this is actually pretty noticeable. It'll scale up well, but like junglers don't necessarily, like this is a irrelevant number basically. 50 to 20 is huge difference. That's a big nerf early. That hurts his usability a lot. Rumble, 40 damage at level 1. 40 damage at level 1. Rumble has good new items. Rumble kind of likes the new items, honestly, because Morello's is still good for him, and it reduces healing now. He doesn't have to build something else for that. And he would not want the old Morello's anyway, and he does the rot damage, like he can apply it really reliably. He still likes dual pen. Rylai's got buffed. I honestly wondered a little about Spellbinding Orb with Rumble, because he casts a lot of spells, so he stacks it up fast, he moves around quickly, and because of those things, he's probably one of the better users of it. He can use the burst. He actually scales pretty well with AP on the whole. So he, I think, got buffed by item changes, and 40 damage on a level 1 spell is actually really potent. So this is actually really intimidating. How much damage does he lose damage on early creeps? That's 175 times 0.6. That's 105 versus 135 times 0.75. Now he gains damage on early minions. He gains damage on minions at all stages. And then he's also going to do 40 more damage per Q. This is a really, really potent buff. This is a really potent buff. I think Rumble with Aerie too. Yeah, that was my mom. I think Rumble with Aerie can trigger it twice with his Q. So that's pretty potent too. This is a good nerf, because if she gets to land her E first and then ult you, she can stun you for 4 seconds, which is fucking insane. This doesn't hurt her early power, which already isn't that crazy, but it does hurt her scaling power. So this is good. People might max Q second now instead of E, because this doesn't scale up very meaningfully, and the Q's cooldown goes down significantly. So this probably switches Sejuani to maxing Q second for mobility and for that CC, a different kind of CC. This hurts a little too. This hurts her ability to go Warmog second, because the ability for a jungler to go Warmog second is really potent, but you have to be like level 13, 14 to be able to use the Warmogs after the changes, so any health changes are actually pretty significant for junglers right now, because they always want to build Warmog second if you're a tank. You always want Warmogs. Okay. Shaco. Next basic attack within quarter of a second of exiting invisibility, so he gets less time after invisibility, and reduces Deceive's cooldown. Cooldown reduction is still the same. Loses 0.3 bonus attack damage. Alright, this is good because Shaco got a massive ratio on his shit for Duskblade, which way outweighed the damage that Duskblade gave, and it was really silly. This champion's fucking broken. Please nerf the living fuck out of it. 10 damage at all ranks. That's pretty okay. 7.5 early. That's good. Make him more vulnerable early. I wish it wasn't 2.5 later because he gets a little bit of CDR. The dude literally Qs you every 1.5 seconds later in the fucking game. And it's really uncontestable for short-range champions. I don't think these bring Swain in line. I don't think these bring Swain in line at all. I think Swain is still way too oppressive to short-range champions. If you are a short-range champion and you try to fight Swain, your champion kind of ceases to function. That's just kind of a feature. You can't really play against Swain as a short-range champion. You just kind of lose. So I don't think these meaningfully affect Swain. I mean, they're going to hurt early. This, I don't think, is that crazy. It's significant because the base damage isn't that high anyway, but it can, like, overlap. This hurts, but I still don't think he's going to be any less oppressive to melee champions, especially because there's not much all-in potential on him because he builds relatively tanky. Small Zed buff to wave clear. If the Duskblade hurt Zed harder than expected, then you would think they would give damage back to Zed's trading potential rather than his wave clear. Buffing an assassin's wave clear can lead to a really unhealthy pattern, which happened back in Season 3 where all the good assassins had really reliable wave clear, so they would clear the wave instantly, and then they had threat on you or to roam. And if numbers can get to that point, I think Zed would probably need like 70-75% damage for that to happen. But like this is a bold path to take for a buff. Because assassins with wave clear are relatively unhealthy if they have like reliable assassination potential. Guinsoo's needs to be nerfed. I don't know if this is enough of a nerf. It's probably still broken. It's like the best item in the game on Jhin. It's the best item in the game on Kog'Maw. It's the best item in the game on Varus. Best item in the game on Kai'Sa. Best item in the game on Kayle. Probably the best item in the game as like a 4th item on like every AD carry for the DPS it gives. This item's fucking broken after the changes. It gives you multiplicative attack speed, separate from all your other attack speed modifiers, and it gives you multiplicative attack damage. It is fucking insane. The DPS this gives you is unfair, and I don't think 300 gold is going to fix it. Jax, another example, yes. Anybody that builds Rageblade is busted. The damage that you get from it, like you can go Master Yi and you can go the Devourer plus Guinsoo's and you do insane damage. Warwick can build it, and the damage that you do is absolutely insane. The fact that it's 2 different multiplicative modifiers scales your damage harder than anything else in the game can. It's literally unfair. This is a huge nerf, especially to getting 2 of them, because you get a quarter instead of getting half. Because before, when you got half, it was normally worth like overlapping 2 because they might have enough damage for it and it was still potent enough. A quarter, you're not going to want more than 1 anymore. This means later in the game it's a lot worse on tanks, so you probably won't see like as much like Stoneplate, Warmogs, fucking Locket Abuse. The base goes down a lot, and the direct reduction, so like they're really disincentivizing people to build more than 1. And then if you do, even if you build 1, it's not that much more potent on tanks than it is on necessarily supports anymore, because this is not going to go nearly as high. It'll still be a little bit better on tanks. 20 armor, 12%. This is a nerf overall because 10 armor early is basically 10% effective health. Not literally, because it depends on how much armor you already have, but 10 armor will always give you 10% EHP of your actual health. So you get 20% more of this kind of damage reduction, which is multiplicative with other kinds, but you're losing a significant amount here. You're losing 33% here. So that means that you can compare 33 to 20, and that means that, what is that, like 60%? So like this is like a 40% nerf to like the for like what you're getting. You're getting 40% less, roughly. Aura items. Auras increase if your user increases in size. Maybe Abyssal Mask Cho'Gath is now insane then. I don't know. Don't know if that's meaningful. This is a very large nerf from 4 to 1. But melee supports are still by far the most popular, so makes sense. This is an amazing change, honestly, because Resolve early game gives way too much tankiness for way too little investment, and then later in the game it doesn't give you much meaningful at all. So these are actually really healthy changes because you can basically take Resolve Secondary on anything right now. I wonder how this scales up, like if it's completely linear or if it kind of like curves out to like around like level 6, like you're probably around the same health that you were before. I'd love to see like an actual like number curve for this, or if it's flat, like linear, flat line up. But these are really healthy changes. Resolve is a really safe secondary on literally everybody right now, so cannon gold value changes. Alright, we'll get there. I would like to see melee supports brought down a little bit because they're a little bit too safe. They get too much sustain in lane. They're not as punishable as they should be for the all-in potential and the utility that they normally bring. Alright, so hitting enemy champions with spells grants maximum mana. That encourages you to trade. That's a much healthier design than the current mana flow band. I already like that. Once max stacks has been reached, mana flow band restores missing mana every 5 seconds, so it's like Chalice. Interesting. It restores 1% of missing mana. It is literally Chalice. So you get 25 max mana up to 250. That's a significant amount. And then you get Chalice passive. So this is actually probably really good after the finish. How long can it take you to finish it? You can get this done in 2.5 minutes. If you're religious about getting it. So that's pretty damn quick. You can get this before your first recall. Pretty reliably, actually, I'd imagine. First recall, maybe second at the latest, you're going to have this. And this is 1% missing mana, which is actually extremely potent. This could actually open up people to go Ludens more often instead of Seraphs. Because Chalice passive was insane, and everybody built it when it was on Athenes because like the mana it gave you was too insane. And this is literally basically the same passive, but it's now tied to a rune. So I don't think if they want to make it less oppressive as an option, I don't think they hit their mark. I do think this might fix some of the item problems that they introduced, where like Archangels outperforms everything because it's the only one that actually fixes mana problems. So, but you can get this done really early. I wouldn't mind if this either had a longer cooldown, or if this stacked up to a higher amount. Because if this stacked up to a higher amount, then it would take longer to get into, and then you wouldn't get this passive as soon, and then it would offset if it is stacked higher how much mana like Seraphs gives you, for example. So this gives them more tweaking tools, I think, with it though, with this design. So this is probably better design overall. It encourages you to trade. So this is probably better design. But I think it's still going to be just as oppressive in this state. So, Presence of Mind. Enemy takedowns restore 20% of maximum mana and refund 10% of ultimate's cooldown. This is actually pretty interesting. This will still probably be taken on Caston because this is still really potent. This could be an extra R and get your R up faster. So I still think this will be taken on him, even though it doesn't make you completely immune. Like, it might get you an extra R, which could make the difference still. Definitely could still be, but this could see use on other champions now too. Champions that have really potent ultimates, let's think like Ashe, for example, because Ashe, some Ashes still build like Essence Reaver, like refunding 10% like just off the top is actually really potent still. Because every time that she uses her ultimate, it should get summoners or a kill basically anyway. So if she can just take 10% off that flat, plus anything that she gets in the meantime are also going to reduce that cooldown in between the picks. Like this could be really potent on champions with potent ultimates, even on like potentially mid laners. I don't know about that many mid laners that want to go into precision because there's not really anything in precision except for like this now, but it could still be good. I could see this being experimented with more. Tenacity stacks higher. I think tanks already take this when they do end up in this tree. Nobody else really does. Some junglers might, but I think they normally take attack speed or lifesteal. I don't think the problem is more that there's not much appealing in the precision tree for people that aren't auto attackers in general. So buffing up something like Tenacity doesn't do the most because you don't necessarily get the most aside from Tenacity. Like the same problem with like Presence of Mind. Some people that would like Presence of Mind aren't going to go into precision for Presence of Mind because they just get Presence of Mind, whereas they can get something out of Domination, they can get something out of Inspiration, they can get something out of Resolve for like better trading. You can get something out of Sorcery for damage. Mana Flow Band, whatever it might be. So I don't know if like I think the fact that these are in precision are why they're underperforming rather than necessarily their power. Like I'm not even sure why Tenacity is in this. I know it's like the option, so like tanks and so whatnot could go into that tree, but there's not much else appealing to tanks in there. So like this doesn't even need to be like tenacity. Like they could change this rune for what precision's supposed to be. We're gonna bring up the damage against full durability champions. Anything that they change in this tree is really good because coup de grace is way better than everything else in that tier. So this is really valuable, very good. Zombie ward, double vision when you're providing and when you're taking it away. Alright, so they nerfed it heavily early, a little bit later. This is very heavy nerf early. It's half. Scales up a little bit. This is good. Despite the zombie ward nerfs, everybody still takes it in competitive play. A lot of people still take it in solo queue. It's just busted the amount of vision that it gives you and the amount of control it gives you for low investment. I am surprised this is being outperformed by the other runes in this tier because approach velocity is really good. 15% is actually really potent. This is like a Skarner buff. He normally takes this when he takes Unsealed Spellbook. Basically, any champion that any jungler that goes Inspiration normally takes approach velocity. Some of the kitey mid laners do. This is a lot of movement speed actually. It's a lot of movement speed. I wouldn't have thought that this was being outperformed by the other things in the tier because other things in that tier aren't that crazy. All right, base gold up. Every 24 waves, it does not go up a gold anymore. What would that have been? That would have been 12 minutes into the game. It would have gotten an extra gold. Ooh, this went down by 3. Nuts. That means you will never see the same gold from caster minions that you did previously. Canyon minions are worth more. They gold growth about the same. Their health is higher. That's interesting. It's another like shot or something. Tom Kench can go Glacial Augment, that's true. Even the Tom Kenches that don't go Glacial Augment, they often go Unsealed Spellbook, and if they go Unsealed Spellbook, they're probably taking approach velocity. He tongues you, and then he runs at you really fast, so like no matter what you go on Tom Kench, you're probably getting approach velocity. That is really potent on him. It's a good call. Alright. 23 increased to 32, so instead it's 50 increased to 60, so Siege Minions will be a lot tankier later in the game. This is, again, another buff back to the Banon minions that were really popular for a little bit, the Baron Banner minions, which were very popular, very potent, still are very potent if the enemy team has heavy magic damage, still very strong. And this will make them even more potent because they're going to have a lot more health, and they're going to be the harder to deal with. So they're putting basically all the gold from these things into Siege Minions. So these will be much more important to contest, and especially for Relic Shield. Like Relic Shield people being able to get these, you're gonna want to punish them more feasibly for hitting Siege Minions. Crest of Cinders, burn effect no longer, damages turrets. All right. I kind of like when junglers have like some way to influence their pushing power outside of just being like an auto attacker. That used to be you could smite Krugs and then you hit something for a couple hundred damage. Not that most people almost did it. Using 14 materials on cannons because you can't last it. Hell yeah, dude. Whatever it takes. Not much gameplay around this distinction. Sometimes I make decisions based on whether or not I have red buff because it'll determine how much damage that I can do to something. So I don't know if it doesn't affect gameplay at all, but I don't think this is a super meaningful change. It might slow the game down a tiny bit. Voice chat, more of the same. Not too interested. Attack move on Crush, what was this? Now checks a larger area before defaulting to attacking the closest. Okay, that's interesting.